Hello everybody and welcome to our first look at the NEXAT Pack for Farming Simulator 25. I have to say I have had a very interesting time in setting up for this video because the NEXAT is going to be one of the coolest, most agile, while at the same time being the most awkward thing to try to drive around and maneuver. So I was setting up here on this field. We're over on Riverbend Springs, just behind the dairy. And I was going to do a thumbnail back here. And I've got all of the attachments, the carrier module, everything pretty much laid out here. Everything's so huge, I couldn't get a good thumbnail. So you've already seen what the thumbnail is. We don't need to talk about that. But what I did do, to some degree, is I organized things basically how they are to go together. So we have our seed hopper here. And we're going to take a look at all this stuff in the shop just in a few minutes. But we have our seed hopper, and then we have our planter and our seeder, and then we have our cultivator. All of these things can be attached together. Of course, it's either the planter or the seeder, one at a time, but they all would make use of the seed hopper. Something else that makes use of the seed hopper that's not necessarily overly apparent at the outset is going to be our weeder in this hoe. So this has to have the seed hopper also attached. Then we have our sprayer module with the huge 50+ meter boom arm. We have our slurry tanker and our slurry cultivator injector. And then of course we have our harvester module. That's what I'm going to call it, our harvester module, that then connects through this long intake chute to either a Geringhoff grain header or a Geringhoff corn header. And all of this, of course, needs to make use of this carrier module in order to basically power the whole thing and maneuver it around. Now this ungangly looking piece of machinery is quite agile, as I said, because it has front and rear steer. And right now we are in kind of road transport mode. We're going to shift this thing over into field work mode or loading of modules mode, because like I said, it's kind of awkward to get this thing connected, but Giants has a trick up their sleeves that hopefully will make this thing a bit easier to use. And you may say, well, where are the engines in this thing? Well, the engines are in this long carrier module beam. We've got two engines, one on the left, one on the right of center, and then right here in the middle we have our two exhaust ports. Let me move this thing down here, and I just want to show you how agile this is. If we go full left or full right turn, you see the rear wheels turn, the front wheels turn. We've got a pretty decent turning radius for how big this piece of machinery is. We pull up the F1 menu, you can see that we can enable work mode by hitting X. Now this is a really interesting animation, because what we've got going on is we've got little feet, one right there, that are going to extend down, raise up the wheels then rotate 90 degrees, and the feet then lift back up. And then the cab swings and shifts around. And now we're in work mode. And we have a couple different options with respect to steering. We have rear steer. How cool and weird is that? But look how it's not really on a dime, but it's basically turning on a 50-cent piece. And then we can change our steering mode, Control Y, to all-wheel steering. I feel like this is steering even tighter of a radius. And then we have Control Y once again for front steering. Just like the rear steer, except it's the front tire that rotates 90 degrees. And now I want to show you a little bit about hooking this thing up. Then we're going to jump in the shop and look at all of the various attachments. So the first thing that's going to make this a little bit easier to connect is first lining up properly. You can see we now have these green, yellow, I don't know what color they are. I'm colorblind after all. We have these lines. They're not red, so we know we're good. This means that we are in the right position to attach. Okay? Now, if we go and rotate this around, our lines would change to red, meaning that we are in the wrong position to attach. Right? So right there, we're in the wrong position. We need to get into the correct position. Well, Giants has something that makes this a little bit easier. So we want to get up here to where we see these lines, and now I can push and hold the 0 button, or the O button, the letter O, and it will activate automatic attachment. And it'll do its best, and we're coming in at a very bad angle on this. So this is kind of a very extreme scenario, but I'm holding down the letter O, and it is going to do its best to try to get to a point where we can connect. And again, this is a bad example. It's an extreme example, but there we go. Now we can connect. And now we can also connect to this module. And we can go off and seed now if we want. Or we could also go and connect to our cultivator. Now, to make things a little bit easier, I did go off camera, move my planting attachment, and I moved into road mode so I could drive parallel to my cultivator. Now I'm shifting into work mode, so now I can simply just drive straight and make that connection. And now I can hit fold to fold everything back up into road transport mode. And then we can go and we'll go find a field to seed. And we're going to be using this here in a little bit, but not right now. But what I do want to kind of demonstrate is the agility of this driving around town. It takes a little bit of a practice to know when to start turning and everything in order to swing the front around and swing the rear around without running into anything. But it is extremely possible to make pretty tight turns without really running into things like poles or signs. So like I said, it's remarkably agile, but given its length and kind of where your cab positioning is, out in front of your steer wheels, it can also be a little bit awkward to drive around. Now, something that I haven't even tried yet, we're going to do this right here, live if you will, is will this fit on a ferry? Did Giants make the ferries big enough for the NEXAT Pack? Let's go and find out. Then we'll take a look at everything in the shop. I think so. It looks like it's going to fit. Indeed, the NEXAT Pack does fit on the ferry. With a bit more room to spare even. A lot of room to spare on both sides of the ferry here. While we're making our way across the ferry, we can just kind of do some inspection of this. How things are modeled. Let's make our way up this windy road. There you go. Through the windy roads and not quite. I was wondering if we could make our turn here without having to back up and keep from knocking over that sign, but there you go. The NEXAT Pack, kind of driving it around. Its agility, its awkwardness, all at the same time. Let's go ahead and take a look at this stuff in the shop. How much does the NEXAT Pack stuff cost? You know, it's one thing that we really haven't seen with respect to these fact sheets. So under mods and DLCs, we have the NEXAT Pack. And here you go. $655,000 for the carrier unit. 1,100 horsepower, 1,700 liters worth of fuel, 15 mile per hour driving speed. She's not the fastest thing in the fleet, that's for sure. And 24,000 kilograms. If we come in here to our shop, we do have configuration options for tires, Trelleborg tires, Michelin tires, BKT tires, and that is pretty much just about it. Now, once we have the carrier module, we're going to have our attachments. We have the Geringhoff slurry module, $275,900. That's going to be attached with the Toric NX 1400. So these two are companions, and that's going to have a 14-meter working width and a 10 mile per hour working speed. Our applicator has no configuration options. And then our slurry tank also has no configuration options, 30,000 liters on our storage. Then we have our seed hopper. That's what we have connected to our NEXAT right now, $180,500. It's going to have seed and fertilizer storage, and it's going to be 20,500 liters total. What I found interesting on our F1 menu, we can see here that we have 2,500 liters worth of seed, 18,000 liters worth of solid fertilizer. But we can hit Z to change tank partitioning. So hit Z once. Now we have 4,500 liters worth of seed, 13,500 liters worth of fertilizer. Let's hit Z again. And we're back to our tempo. Okay, we can hit N to open our tanks. Some nice cool animations there. So back to the shop. We have the Carrier NX. This is going to be a disc harrow. It's going to attach to the front of our seed hopper and is going to allow shallow cultivation, either independent of a seed or planter or in addition to the use of a seed or planter. The Carrier NX has no configuration options, a 14-meter working speed, 14-meter working width, and 10-mile-per-hour working speed. Then we have the Inspire NX. This is the seeding module, 13.5-meter working width and 9-mile-per-hour working speed. $199,500 to buy this. No configuration options on this either. We can also use the Tempo NX27 with our Carrier NX with our seed hopper. And this is going to cost you $249,000, 13.5-meter working width, and 11-mile-per-hour planting speed. Then we have the CHOPSTAR-MAX. This is going to be our hoe in order to weed our crops. And this, again, is going to attach with the seed hopper. So we know this because we can come down here to our CHOPSTAR-MAX. We can go to combinations, and it shows the NEXAT and the seed hopper. If you simply try to connect the NEXAT to this, it will not work. So that's $159,000 there. Then we have our sprayer, the SFP22056 PROFI-CLASS. $249,500 to buy this. 56-meter spray width, 7-mile-per-hour spray speed, and 22,000-liter tank capacity for either solid fertilizer, or not solid, liquid fertilizer or herbicide. No configuration options on this. And this is going to attach directly to the Carrier NX. There's no other attachments for it. Then we have the NEXCO for the NEXAT Pack. This is the harvesting machine. And this is going to be our harvester for both our grain crops and our row crops. 32,500 liter storage capacity on this harvester. 7-mile-per-hour working speed. And then we have the choice of Trelleborg kind of carrier tires here. Vertestein. And there you go. Those are pretty much the configuration options. We've got a very short pipe that will extend out here as well. And you're going to see in a later segment, this does have the option of laying down 2 windrows at a time. Not a single windrow, 2. It's pretty neat how it looks. Then we're going to pair that up with the Geringhoff XtremeFlex Razor 50-foot grain header. That's going to be 15.2 meter working speed, or working width, 7-mile-per-hour working speed, $144,500. No configuration options on this. And then the last item in our pack is the Patriot RotaDisc 2030B. This is, again, 15.2 meter working width, 7-mile-per-hour working speed. It's going to be for our corn and sunflowers. And we have the ability to change the design color on this particular header. But we'll go back to a nice, safe red. And there you go. That's going to be $182,500 to buy. That is the NEXAT Pack. That's where you're going to find it in the shop. And let's now go take a look and explore how all this stuff is going to work. So a little trick that I've learned here in messing with the NEXAT Pack is the order that you buy things at the shop can really make connecting things a lot easier. So for example, in order to connect the header, well, the header connects to the harvest module. The harvest module connects to the carrier. So I've bought the carrier last, the harvester second, and the head first. And now everything is pretty much lined up for us to easily attach it. So we're going to get into our carrier module. We're going to line up with this. We're going to hit X to basically change into work mode. And then it's pretty much just the process of driving forward. Make one connection, drive forward, make the other connection, fold everything up, and drive off. So there we have that connected now. We have our head unit connected now. Right, if we were at the field, we would unfold it like this. But that's not what we want to do. So we're going to hit G. We're going to toggle off to the carrier. We're going to X, and it's going to fold this whole thing up. And now we can drive off away from the shop. If you buy things in a different order, well, you're going to have a little bit of a harder time in making certain connections. So it's important to understand and know what order do I need to buy things in order to be able to easily connect to everything at the shop, and or how do I need to set it all up at the farmyard to make ultimately connecting to these things a whole lot easier. Let's demonstrate how all this stuff works. So I've got a field of sorghum here, field 25, actually on Riverbend Springs. I picked this field because it's nice, it's rectangular, it's okay sized at what, 2.87 hectares, so it shouldn't take a whole lot of time to harvest with something as big as these large headers. And I've gone ahead and set myself up with several NEXATs. Now, of course, economy here, we wouldn't be buying several NEXATs. We'd use one and connect all these modules. But for simplicity's sake, we have our harvest module with our grain header for the sorghum. Then we have our slurry module full of digestate with our applicator to then apply on the field. We have then our cultivator and our planter module, as well as a seed hopper full of seed and fertilizer to plant corn. And then we have our seed hopper, which is empty, and we have it attached to our hoe, our weeder. So we're going to use that to weed our corn. And then we have our harvest header to harvest our corn. I guess the only thing I really don't have lined up here is going to be our sprayer. So let me get that lined up. I seem to have somehow missed that. And then we'll be able to use on this one field the NEXAT and all of the various modules included with it in order to go from harvest to harvest and basically put as minimal tracks down on the field as possible. Now, before we get started, I want to show you a little bit about the additional controls that we have in work mode. So we can use our left mouse button, go up and down and in and out to change the reel, just like we can with any other reel harvester. But then we also have left and right mouse button, and now we can adjust the rotation of the cab, right? So we can get a nice good view and adjust that to be where we want it to be, so we can see pretty much everything that we need to easily see. Of course, pipe out is going to extend our pipe. And then once we have the pipe extended, right click up and down is going to allow us to adjust the output chute. We can enable or disable a straw swath with our comma key. And again, this is going to be able to drop 2 swaths at a time. We're going to turn it on. drop it down. And then we can just take a kind of a look at some of the animations that are here. Lots of belts going on. Lots of moving components. So with that, let's kind of get lined up and dive into this field. Of course, the number one question, can we hire a helper? Let's find out. I hold H. 3 headlands. Sure. So the answer is yes. We can hire a helper. So you can see where the chaff is coming out the back. You can imagine that's where those 2 windrows would be coming out the back as well. We can look inside our grain hopper. We can see the grain collecting there. And let's just see how this NEXAT navigates this corner. I'm going to be kind of curious on it. Although technically I think we could have just, if we did this manually, we could completely ignored the headlands and just went straight up and down. Let's do that instead. So we're going to get to our end of our row. Got a little hung up on our fence there, not that big of a deal. We'll turn it off so we can make our turn easier. Once we've made a turn, we line her right back up. And off we go. And in theory, we're going to be driving back down the field in the same path as we drove up the field. So we are basically minimizing the amount that we're driving on the field. Just get a little bit of a look here of the cab. Alright, well, let me finish this up and I'll bring you back when we need to unload our grain. So we're close enough here. I've got 30,610 liters worth of grain. We're going to O, begin to pipe out. Let's jump over here and get into our auger wagon. See how fast this thing unloads. It's supposed to unload really, really quick. So I don't know about super fast, but that is fairly quick. I mean, it was 30,000 liters, so that's typically going to be pretty darn close to a full semi-load of grain. Look, we filled up the Hallmaster to 66% in one unloading. Just a few more passes on this field and then we'll be done. So the next step in this puzzle is going to be to apply some slurry. So let's approach the field. Let's lower our tanker down. Let's turn things on. And off we go. So we are now cultivating the field while at the same time applying slurry. So we turn the machine off. You can see here that we have a 50% fertilized state. Here we have a 0 fertilization state. So we could use this just simply offline without actually running the slurry part if we wanted to. And again, we can left and right mouse button and then left and right to adjust the cab so we get a good view of what we're doing, or if we do more of a view of where we're going. The next step using our NEXAT pack is of course now to plant our corn. So we do have the cultivator attachment here on the front. We're just going to leave it here. In essence, we're going to be cultivating the soil again. Then we have our planter unit in behind it. We've got our seed hopper on there. I did load this up with seed. I did not load this up with fertilizer because we're going to come back with our sprayer module and put liquid fertilizer down on this particular field. So we're going to turn everything on and off we go. Let's lower our planter down as well. And off we go. We had a little bit of a false start. There we go. We are indeed putting our corn down. Now, one thing that, well, it's not really been talked too much about in any of the blog posts or fact sheets about the NEXAT pack, but something that was interesting is a couple weeks ago Giants put a post in their Discord about the features of the NEXAT pack. What feature are you most excited about of the NEXAT pack? And there was things in there about modularity, you know, big working width, the harvester having a large unloading grain tank, things like that. But the option that stood out to me was improved yield. So there's a rumor that we might get an increased yield on our fields if we use the NEXAT pack. Now, this channel isn't the best channel to be doing yield analysis and things like that. So I doubt we're really going to dive too far into proving or disproving this yield bonus concept. I can see where they would come up with that. Because as you can see here, with the NEXAT pack, we are basically driving down the same path that we have when we harvested, when we used our cultivator and our digestate. Now our seeder, we're going to drive down the same when we do our spraying. We're going to drive down the same when we do our weeding and when we are doing our harvesting again. So we're only going to be driving on a very small portion of the field, which leaves the rest of the field untouched, uncompressed, optimal for growth of our crop. And that's where I think if we do see some sort of yield increase, where and how that yield increase will be realized. Now, for whatever reason, of course this is going to happen, for whatever reason, we don't have weed growth here on this field. We do have our crop growth, but we don't have weed growth. You can see our tram lines are in the field where we were driving, and obviously we weren't seeding over those. So our tram lines are there, and that's what we're going to be driving down now that we're going to do our weeding. So we're just going to do this process anyway, even though we don't have any weeds visually growing, just to kind of demonstrate this process. So we're going to lower it down, and just to make sure that we stay within our tram lines, we'll set our steering. We'll engage our steering, and we're basically now weeding between the rows, even though we don't really have any weeds to remove. We don't need anything in the seed hopper, but we do need that seed hopper in order for the weeder to connect. You see that it's technically connecting to the seed hopper, which is then connected to the carrier frame. So had we actually had a field full of weeds, then we would have went ahead and gone through this entire field and weeded it. What we will be doing though is using our sprayer module now in order to give ourselves our second fertilizer state. So we've connected to this, and oddly enough, with the boom, right, even in work mode, the cab, well, it's pointed off to the side. Not so usable. But if we unfold our sprayer, we get some interesting animations going on where the boom extends out and down, allowing the cab to then rotate around. And here we are with our full 56 meter boom spread. This does have the ability to change your spray. So for example, if we wanted to modify our spray here such that we didn't want to spray off the field, then we could disable a section of the sprayer. And we'll go ahead and set up our steering assist. Turn it on, and off we go. Now, our steering assist isn't really lined up right. And that is because, well, we're hanging off half of a working width on our right side. But trust me, it'll all work out once we turn around. So you can see now that we have turned around and we are making our way back down some tram lines. And we are now basically reaching exactly where we sprayed on our left side. So it all did indeed work out. And we pretty much are going to make this entire field by going up and back. And then we have just a wee little bit over here on the side to pick up. At that point, we will have had a full fertilization on our field. So there you can see the full fertilization. You can see our tram lines in there. And the only thing we have left to do at this point is to advance a few more months and harvest our corn. And now with our corn ready to harvest, well, let's unfold our header. Lower that bad boy down. Well, all right, let's take a look at the lights that we have available to us. The NEXAT has a ton of lights. It's got lights on the operator cab. We have lights on our harvester module. There were lights on the sprayer module. There's lights on the seed hopper module. There's lights on the header. There's lights on the sides of the carrier unit. Right, we've got our beacons, front and rear. Again, let's turn this thing on. And drive it down the road. Right, we have our tram line there. Set this to one headland. And off we go. And then when we get at the end of the row, we're going to be able to turn around, come back the next set of tram lines, and basically just make our way across the field at that point. So guys, that is the NEXAT Pack in a nutshell. This video was my first look at the NEXAT Pack. We covered everything that is included with the pack. You can find here under mods and DLCs once you activate it. The carrier module, the two slurry modules. We have a seeding and planting module. We have a cultivating module for our seed hopper. We have the seed hopper itself, which will store seed and solid fertilizer. We also have a weeding module that attaches to the seed hopper. We have our harvesting module. And then we have the two harvesting header, the Geringhoff grain header and the Geringhoff row crop header, or corn header, if you will. And we have the large sprayer module. All of that, if you pre-order today, up until release on March 11th, well, you can pick it up for $8.99. If you wait until after release, which is perfectly fine, then it's going to be $1 more at $9.99. If you are on PC and you do want to go ahead and pre-order it based on everything you've seen in this particular video, then you can go ahead and do that by clicking the affiliate link down in the description below. That's going to take you to the Giants eShop, where you can then purchase the DLC. You'll get an email once the DLC releases. You're going to follow the link in the email, enter your code, download the file, and then you're going to double click on that in your downloads. It's going to ask you to, once again, activate the DLC. You're going to have to enter your code again. Keep that email handy. Keep that code very handy. That eShop version is going to work for any PC install, be it Steam, Epic, Microsoft Store, digital download from Giants, or physical disc copy. If you are on console, then you will need to purchase through your respective platforms. This is also part of the Year 1 Season Pass. So if you have already purchased the Year 1 Season Pass, then you don't have to worry about it. You already own the NEXAT Pack. All you have to do is wait for the release of the NEXAT Pack and then you'll be able to download that from Steam. It should automatically download if you have the digital download version from the Giants eShop. For the Year 1 Season Pass, then you will likely have to log in using your activation code that you got when you did purchase the Year 1 Season Pass to then download the the NEXAT DLC. It's been a while trying to get all this video set up. Any rate, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below with respect to the NEXAT Pack. I'll tell you what, when this was first hitting the market, as far as I guess the news streams and everything, social media posts about the real life NEXAT, a lot of players went really crazy over it. We're super excited and we're like, we need this in Farm Sim. We need this in Farm Sim. And then when it was announced that it was coming to Farm Sim, I was shocked. I was excited about it, and I was a little surprised at how much hate it was getting. Almost as if you can't please anybody, because if you get them what they want, then suddenly they don't want it anymore. I don't know what the deal is. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you looking forward to this pack? Are you interested in this pack? We're going to be live streaming all weekend. We're going to live stream tonight, tomorrow night, and Sunday night, answering your questions. We've demonstrated in this video that you can easily navigate Riverbend Spring roads on this. There are plenty of fields on Riverbend Springs that the NEXAT Pack will be just fine for. You don't need a giant 4X map. You don't need a flat map. You don't need a map with big square fields in order to make use of this. And until next time, happy farming.